Evening and welcome to the Monday, April 26, 2021 meeting of the Ashland Zoning Board of Appeals. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded by our Assistant Town Planner, Emma Snellings, and the recording will be posted to the YouTube channel for WACA. The town of Ashland, in response to the COVID-19 coronavirus, is currently following the guidance from the Ashland Board of Health, Massachusetts Department of Public Health, and the CDC regarding the virus and steps communities can take to prevent the spread. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 20, all public meetings are being conducted remotely. To participate remotely from a computer, please use the link provided in the agenda that was posted to join the public meeting, or you may access it by phone by dialing the telephone number also listed on the agenda. First order of business is I will call the meeting to order, and we'll take a roll call of members of the ZBA who are here. I, John Trefethen, present.
I, Brian Forrestone, present.
I, Nathan Bandon, present.
I, Chuck Green, am present.
I, Stuart Siegel, am present.
Very good, thank you, and welcome all. Order of business this evening is we have a continued public hearing on a comprehensive permit request for 0 Memorial Drive. I will read the notice. The Ashland Zoning Board of Appeals will hold a public hearing via Zoom video conference to hear the petition of UA Senior Management LLC, care of Allen and Major Associates, Inc., requesting a comprehensive permit per General Law, Chapter 40B, Section 20-23, to allow for the development of a 180-unit age restricted rental community comprised of 156 rental garden apartments and 24 townhouse style rental units. The development will include 2 4-5-story apartment style buildings, 4 townhouse buildings with 6 units each, a clubhouse, 4 detached parking garages, an access road, parking areas, amenities, and all supporting site features and infrastructure required to support the proposed development. And the property in question is located at 0 Memorial Drive, Assessors Map 13, Lot 154, in the Rail Transit District. And parties wishing to be heard in this matter should appear the time and place indicated above. And it mentions where you may find the materials on the town website. This hearing opened on February 22nd. Our last meeting was on April 12th, at which point it was continued to this evening. And we have with us today, I see, actually I am remiss, let me step back a minute and welcome Town Council Adam J. Costa. Nice to see you again, Adam.
Good to see you, Mr. Chairman.
And for the applicant, we have Attorney Robert Buckley, who is present. Nice to see you again, Attorney Buckley.
Good evening.
And Attorney Buckley, if you'd be kind enough just to identify who you have with you this evening on behalf of the applicant.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. This evening, I will have our traffic consultant, I believe it's Dan Mills, as well as Phil Cordero, who is our site civil engineer from Allen and Major. And I also will have our representative from Cube 3, the architectural firm, Anthony DeFelice. Based upon our last discussion, I thought that tonight we would focus on traffic as well as the architectural design. But before we do that, with the indulgence of the chair, I'd like Phil perhaps to give an update on where we stand with our peer review or the town's peer review consultant, and as well as to show there was some questions at the last meeting concerning lighting. And I think for the board's information, we have some examples of the types of lighting that we'd like to share so that the board will have a comfort level as to what we're proposing.
Okay, that certainly would be fine to start with, Mr. Cordero. I know there were, I think, at least 3 questions that he was going to check on and report back to us this evening. I also have a question on something that was discussed last week that I'd like to bring up. But with respect to the traffic report, I see that Mr. Mills, your traffic consultant, is here. It was not my understanding that we were doing traffic this evening because the board does not yet have its peer review consultant's report. I suppose for purposes, if time allows, we can have Mr. Mills, but we're going to have to do traffic some other night after we have an opportunity to review our peer review report. Mr. Mills and our peer review engineer may have some conversations. I don't know yet what's going on with that, but we did not get the traffic report until shortly before last meeting, I believe, and it was sent out by our town planning department to our peer reviewer shortly after that, and the report has not yet come back. With respect, so
that makes sense.
I mean, I would leave it up to you to have Mr. Mills, remain here. That's certainly fine, but I, for one, am not prepared to discuss the traffic report in any detail this evening. But if time does allow and he wants to make a general presentation after we finish with Mr. Cordero and with the architect, and I think that I have no objection to that.
Well, why don't we see how it goes, and if after a few minutes, if it looks like we're going to be a discussion on items, I'll dismiss Dan. I don't want to take too much of time.
That would be fine. I'm sure he's not going to find our discussion overly interesting if we're not talking about traffic. In any event, Mr. Cordero, good to see you again, sir. And when last we left, there were, I believe, 3 questions or 3 items that had come up, and you had kindly indicated you were going to check on it and report back to us at tonight's meeting. So if you would do that, it would be appreciated.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Phil Cordero from Allen and Major Associates. Thank you for having me again. I will look forward to answering the questions that were raised at the last meeting. And then, as Mr. Buckley pointed out, Attorney Buckley, I just want to give the board an update as to where we stand on engineering peer review, and then wrap up with a little tiny discussion on site design, and then we can turn everything over to the architectural team. With permission, Mr. Chairman, may I share my screen again?
Certainly.
Okay, thank you. One moment, please. Where we left off at the last meeting was a discussion of site lighting. And one of the elements of site lighting certainly incorporated the building elements. And at the time of the discussion, I was not able to provide any pertinent detail on the fixturing at the buildings. I have since coordinated with our architect, who happens to be on the call with me this evening, Anthony DeFelice from Cube 3. So I'll give the overview, and Anthony, I'll kindly ask you to course correct me if I get off the rails at all in terms of building lighting outside of my site planning element. So for the benefit of the board, the question was raised, what is the nature of the fixtures that will be on both the apartment flat buildings, the garden style buildings, and also the rear of the townhomes, as those would have applicability in terms of abutters in the Apple Ridge community. And rightfully so, would want to be concerned about light pollution and light glare. So what's on the screen here for the benefit of the board, and just confirming you can see the screen share? Yes? Okay.
Yes.
What is on the screen right now is the south-facing elevation of Building 1. You're looking at the 4-story rise of the first garden building, which is as you enter into the site on the right. And where I have encircled in red, and I'll use my pointer again, where I have encircled in red, those are points of exterior lighting adjacent to resident balconies. And you can see there'll be one on each balcony, and these will be controlled by the residents, that if they're outside, they can turn the light on or off as they see fit, or if they were in the unit entirely, they would have those lights off. The nature of the fixture that we are anticipating on using external to the building is it's more of a wall washing fixture, and I'm going to zoom in on it in this lower left corner. And it looks very nondescript. And as I zoom in on it a little bit further, forgive me for the delay, it is a very nondescript rectangular fixture that will be located on the patios. And you'll notice that there are no outward facing elements from this fixture. So hopefully all can see it through the Zoom share, but you'll notice that the opening for this light fixture is here at the bottom. And what that does is it forces, when this light is turned on by the residents, all of the light is focused downward and creates a wall wash effect alongside of the porch patio, which is what we're going for, as discussed at the last meeting, to prevent that outward force of light coming from these 4-story buildings at the back of the site. And this fixture will exist on all of those patios at all of those locations that I noted in that red highlight. And I'll just back out one more time to the overall. So now that you see the fixture, you can weigh it into the context again of the site as an overall. So each one of those downlight fixtures would be located at that red circle. And again, with the intent that that light is focused downward into the patio zone, as opposed to somehow emanating outward from the face of the building. And that's, again, to provide the direct shield for light glare for abutters for these taller story buildings. And this same condition, as I advance to the next page, this is, as the page turns, Building 2, which will be exactly the same condition. And again, you're looking at the south-facing elevation, which is the one that faces the Apple Ridge residential community. Again, entirely the same light fixture will be located in that location. It's the same square fixture with the same downward light that will illuminate that area. And then when I advance to the next slide, I would want to share with the board, this is the clubhouse. And again, the south-facing, in this case, it's termed the right elevation, but it's essentially the south-facing elevation of the clubhouse. And again, it shares the same nature of light fixture, where it's the rectangular downlight, where the light is emanating vertically down and it's wall washing the structure, again, as opposed to an outward shine. And then the last fixture that I would share with the board this evening is on the townhomes. And the upper elevation is the rear elevation, the typical rear elevation of the 4 townhome buildings that we have. There are 6 units within each townhome. So similarly, there are 6 points of fixture lighting at the rear exit to the patio. And this light will be slightly different than the garden apartment buildings. And this will be more of a teardrop downward facing shielded light. So while different in terms of architectural style, it still meets the same intent that we're going for by design standard, which is the light is illuminating down as opposed to outward from the wall, where it would create that uncontrolled glare that we spoke about at last meeting. Now, what I'd like to do is I will flip over, just takes a moment, please. I just want to draw to the board's attention. I'm just switching to the site plans, if you'll forgive me for just a moment. I did point out to the board last week, and I do want to reiterate it here this week. This is just a zoomed in elevation of the site map. I don't have the the photometrics of the light shown on here. But what you may recall is what I shared with the board is that we intentionally located these buildings 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that way, as we have lights on the outside of these patios, each of these other structures seeks to diminish any light source that may want to move towards the residential area and into the tree buffer line. So, hang on just a second, please. I'm waiting for my computer to catch up. I apologize. So the elevations of these townhomes are such that the roof lines of these buildings in their entirety shield out the 3.
I've lost you, Mr. Cordero. If you're talking, I can't
The
hear
3
you.
lowest floors. Can you not hear me?
There was a time, about 10 seconds, that I couldn't hear what you were saying. So if you'd be kind enough perhaps to repeat that. I heard you up when you were talking about the height of the buildings and blocking light out. So if you could pick it up from there perhaps, and thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, I apologize. I'm not sure the technical difficulty.
It's happening again. Is it only me? Is everybody else hearing him okay?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm losing him also.
Okay.
I can't hear him either.
Okay. I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to disconnect from the Zoom for a moment and I'll connect right back in if you're able to capture me.
Sure.
Okay. In the meantime, I don't know if, in the interest of time, Attorney Buckley, I can circle back with all of my open issues if we want to move on to the architectural while I solve technical side challenges.
I'll defer to the chair on that.
How much time do you think it'll take, Mr. Cordero? I know it's a difficult question to answer, but I'd hate to get into the architectural and not finish this up and then come back to it at some later time. So if it's only going to be a matter of a couple of minutes, I'd rather have you do that, I think, and try and log back in.
I think he may be doing that, Mr. Chairman.
That's what I'm hoping. Speaking about that.
He's requesting to be admitted. Okay, so.
Okay.
I apologize for the delay, members of the board. Am I back and okay to continue?
Yes.
I hear you.
Thank you. Let me screen share again. I apologize. Okay. So just to wrap up, in the interest of hopefully I don't lose technical time, these townhomes shield the lower 3 floors of the garden buildings. And we find that that's an effective way to make sure we don't have uncontrolled light pollution here. And that's what I wanted to get across. The roof lines of each of these townhomes are sufficiently high that even though all of these lights are focused downward, you would not see even the light glare because of the positioning of the townhomes. And then the lighting along the back side of the townhomes is shielded by the remaining tree buffer that exists, the increased tree buffer that was granted as part of the development agreement and the interactive workshops on location, and also grade considerations where these townhomes are actually depressed below the natural grade, and the grade itself acts as a shield. And the system in total seeks to lower any opportunity for that light pollution that was the source of discussion last week. So I'll stop there on the lighting and afford the board if you have any questions or follow-up questions on what I've put forth.
I do have a question with respect to the lighting on the backside of the townhome buildings, which would be 4, 5, 6, and 7. Are they located on what would be the first floor of the townhomes as I'm looking at the design?
Yeah, yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Okay,
So if you're able to see the screen share with
Mhm.
the red denoting where the lights are,
yeah,
they're located directly adjacent to what would be the patio door, the vinyl slider as it's
Okay.
labeled on the plan.
fine, thank you. Any other members of the board have any question on the lighting?
I had asked if the, you had two different heights of street lamps. And I was wondering if any of the taller ones were in the building area or just on the street coming up.
So you did ask that question, and the taller ones are on the street coming up. What we tried to do is keep the
Oops, I think we've losing your sound again. Unfortunately, Mr. Cordero, we can't hear you.
I think he's trying to sign it again.
Yep, okay.
Okay, I apologize again. It's a bad technical evening, but I am here. And if there are any additional questions, I'm happy to answer them. Did my answer on the multiple height lights come across before I disconnected?
I believe it did. Brian, were you
Yes, I'm
satisfied
all
with
set.
all
The
set on
taller
that?
ones are just going to be on the road and the shorter ones will be in the building area from
Right,
what I
okay.
understand.
That's correct. Yes.
Thank you.
I have a question not on the lighting, but on something we talked about last week, and that was the I believe they're called swales that go down both sides of the driveway down to Memorial.
Yes, sir.
How deep are those?
They're 12 inches deep, sir. So
Okay.
they're a shallow depth and they flow about half full during our larger storm events.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions on this area? Anything that we talked about last week, the lighting or storm water issues?
I had
I don't have any.
on
Okay. All set?
on the use of the grade, the natural grade to shield some of the lighting. I'm wondering how far kind of below that high point are the buildings? And then how high up off the ground would that fourth floor light fixture be?
So, okay, so there are two questions in there. Let me see if I can answer them for you. Bear with me for just a moment. I want to change screens so I can share with you the grading plan on the Zoom. And I think what was happening is I was trying to share too much. So I'm going to just share a single sheet with you and hopefully not create any more technical kerfuffles this evening. Bear with me for just a moment. And again, I'm just going to share my screen. It'll just take a moment. And just confirming again that everybody can see that screen share. Okay. So to answer your question, sir, on the grading related issue, so I'm just zooming in on two of the townhomes here. And what happens is there's a natural grade depression right where we're placing the two townhomes, where the maximum elevation grade that we have is approximately 390 at the property line. Oh no. Oh no. Okay.
Did we lose him again?
I believe we have his screenshot appears to be frozen as well.
Well, I'll leave it at the discretion of the chair, whether you want to move on to architectural or.
I think that would probably be the best thing to do, and perhaps we can circle back to this. Nathan, we won't forget the question, and if we can't get to it tonight because of technical issues, we will take it up at the next meeting. Okay, I see Mr. Cordero appears to be back. But I'm reluctant to suggest you screen share anything with us going forward.
I appreciate it. Again, I apologize. Let me see if I can verbally answer the question without the screen share, since that seems to be the issue this evening. The question was about the grade at the townhomes. And what I wanted to share is that the grade at our property line in that location is approximately 390. And the grade at the townhomes is approximately 365. So there's about 30 feet of grade change in there. And in that is where we're hiding those townhomes into existing grade. And now you had asked, sir, what is the maximum height of the townhomes? And the peak of the townhomes in that area is approximately 400. And what that then entails is at the garden buildings, buildings 1 and building 2, that 4th story is at approximately elevation 406, 410. And that's where we get that light blockage. It's also where we get the grade blockage to obscure the townhome units.
Thank you, appreciate it.
I apologize for the delay.
Any other questions from members of the board? Okay, why don't we move on then to architecture? And Attorney Buckley, who do you have that's going to address that issue for us tonight?
I have our architect, Anthony DeFelice. Before we move that at the discretion of the chair, maybe Phil could give an update on the peer review and site civil. Is that appropriate, or do you want to wait?
Oh, no, that would be perfectly fine to do it now. I know we have not received a report from our peer review engineer as yet, so the upgrade would be helpful.
Just to jump in real quick, excuse me, Chairman, excuse me, Attorney Buckley. Just to John, just to give the office received the letter today, and so we just haven't been able to get a chance to review it and send it out to the board yet. So, but before Phil moves on, I just kind of want to jump in and let you know from a town staffing point of view that we had received the letter. I would say afternoon time, I believe.
Okay, great. Thank you. That was Peter Matchik, our town planner. Thank you for that. So that means that certainly at the next meeting, we will be able to address whatever issues may arise from that. And Mr. Cordero, did you want to add anything to that, or?
I would just echo what Mr. Matchik said. We received the letter this afternoon, and we have advanced the ball in terms of addressing all of the comments that GCG had. So a significant portion of the letter is issue resolved, no further comment, in that the latest revision to the plans have satisfactorily addressed the predominance of their comments. We're not quite 100% yet. There are a few clarifications we need to make with them, but I'm confident we can get there for the next meeting. And GCG also laid out a great roadmap in their letter today of all the waivers and considerations and deferences to the boards as part of their decision-making on the application.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, that being said,
So, Mr. Chairman, I would ask Anthony to walk the board and the audience through the architectural design and what the intent was and what we were seeking to capture.
Thank you, Bob. Chairman, members of the board, I appreciate your time. Anthony DeFelice for the record from Cube 3. I'll be running you through a presentation similar to last time that I was a part of the presentation, an overview of the project, as well as a little bit more about the design and some of the design considerations and how we ended up with what we have. So I will share my screen and start the presentation. Just to confirm, can everyone see my screen?
yes.
Thank you, John. So just a brief overview to basically talk about the conceptual layout, the master planning of the project, and how we ended up with the design. More or less what we focused on was addressing some of the concerns about the single family housing to the south at Apple Ridge, that with the scale of the project and the scale of the buildings, if we can shift the building as far away from that side as we could to allow for the master plan that we wanted to include, and as well as react to the scale and the size at the same time. So we ended up with a little bit of a condensed version, but it allowed us to kind of gain this central focus, which is the clubhouse, which is building 3 on the center of everything, which is really the prime focus of these seniors, that they have all these connections to that. It's got the amenities. It's basically the heart of the project. And then we addressed the having building 1 and 2, the larger 4 or 5 story split, being towards the north part of the site plan, so that the grading would work in our favor to allow for that step, so that you wouldn't really have the perspective of a 5-story building unless you were on the backside, which is realistically just for tenants and residents for entry into the building. The front is basically your public view corridor. So you're once we see the perspective of this, you'll see that the scale of the buildings, are much smaller, but we're allowed to get, the amount of residential units that the client wanted. And the townhouse is flanked to the south and to the west as being a 2-story structure that are, much smaller in scale and size, that allow, the concerns to be addressed at the same time. So we have 180 units, 150 apartment styles in 1 and 2, and 24 townhouses. So there's 6 unit townhouses, and there's 4 of them. And they're a mix of 1 and 2 beds from a unit standpoint. This is a view basically coming up to the top of the hill that Phil has mentioned in his grading overview. And to the left, you see the townhouses, which have that street front presence. It gives you that neighborhood feel, very connected to the street. Those buildings want to have that frontage presence. Then to the right is building 1, which is pushed back. It allows for, this open green space. It allows for the residents to utilize this exterior space that we've created by allowing the buildings to be separated far enough, but close enough that they feel like they're within walking distance. And then you see the clubhouse as you follow your eyes down the street, and it's basically the central focal point. You reach the top, your destination. If you're from the public, if you're visiting somebody, you're going there, you're utilizing that space. It's a very vibrant, exciting place that the seniors are going to be interacting with on a daily basis. This is perspective a little bit further into that green space on building 1. These are, like I mentioned again, these are 5-story type 3 construction buildings. So that's basically wood frame construction over slab on grade. We have 76 total units in this building. There's amenity space located on the lowest floor to support the tenants who live in these buildings. The design that we were looking into as the concept and the initial basis of what we went with on this project was essentially a transitional design. It uses very traditional forms, but uses it in a modern expression in a modern way. So the way that we've basically done this type of architecture and type of design has been using clean lines and minimalism. It has been the thought of the approach that we've taken, using very limited ornamentation. So as you can see, these forms don't have a lot of expression to them. They're very simple. They're very subtle on the use of what we're doing. So the turn gable form is a very New England vernacular design that the seniors are very accustomed to. They've lived in single family houses that, from this area. It's drawing that architecture to this complex. And then we've used the body of the building as a way of this new modern expression of going with a flat roof that is a little bit lower, because we've relieved the top floor with a darker color, but very subtle expression to it. So it doesn't feel like a 4-story building, and it kind of feels like it's reducing the scale of this 4-story building. We've basically intentionally removed the trim around the doors and the windows, the heavier the expressions that you would see in a lot of traditional buildings that use these types of forms. We've gone with these dark accent colors that are prominent in different locations, as in our canopies, our balconies, our columns. There's a lot of that is complementary to the very subtle used earth tones of lap siding and vertical siding that we're using on basically every building. You can see it in this building specifically. And it gives the sense of these seniors that are going to be living here a very comfortable feel to what these buildings are. But we're doing this in a new, modern, exciting way that they can grow and live in this complex, and it goes with the times as people continue to move in. So that's what we've expressed the architecture as, and really thought it was a strong concept. And hopefully you as the town are seeing that and understanding that. And it's been something we've been very excited to do and express in this type of style of project. So this is just the face of building 2. You can see the entry point, very large openings so that you connect the interior to the exterior is a very big concept too that we're doing. The dark windows, the dark railings, everything kind of relates to one another, but they're very subtle expressions on this building. You can see the connection to the clubhouse over to the right side. Every building has that sense of connection. There's a network of paths that connect you, but these outdoor spaces are intended for gathering. Different events are going to happen. The clubhouse is going to flood out onto the backside of this area and really be exciting and continually be used at all times of the year is the intent. This is a section through basically building 1 or 2 to show that step for the 4 or 5-story option. So to the left on the section here is that connection, that outdoor space we're just looking at for both buildings. And then on to the right of the section is basically this back connection, which is your tenant, the surface parking. There's standalone garages on the back that support these buildings. But you can see the difference in scale of these 2 buildings when you're standing on each side. And we thought that the public side wanted to have this shorter scale that relates to two-story clubhouse and the two-story townhouse, it doesn't feel like it's overpowering the rest of the architecture on the project. So this is a view of the approach coming to the clubhouse. So this is a single story type 5 construction. All the amenities, this is the heart of the project. Similar concept and ideas here. We're just using that minimalism. We're using the clean lines, the simple edges, the removal of what you would see on traditional, but expressing it in these gabled forms. Large openings to connect interior and exterior is this real expression that we think is very important for especially a building like this that is public and private. It wants to be open, it wants to feel like it's got that edge and presence. And this is the townhouses, so buildings 4, 5, 6, and 7. So similar approach to the others where this has these expressions that you would see on a traditional form, but the elimination of the corner boards and the window trim, typically you'd see those white, but we're doing the windows and the roofs as a darker tone, so it really gives this contrast. But the excitement is the people in front of this and what's happening, and this is basically the backdrop to it. Very simple use of siding, vertical and horizontal. Lots of different character, but very simple forms. And then this is just an overview so you can kind of see it in elevation form to help understand and see the connection between each and every building, and the scale and how we're using the gabled form and then interconnecting it with the body of each and every building. The color palette is basically universal through each and every building. Subtle expressions, very large openings where it makes sense to connect the interior to the exterior. Very muted earth tones. It has that theme in the architecture that kind of carries through to each and every building. And that's pretty much it. So I will stop sharing and open to questions if anybody has any.
Okay, members of the board, any questions for our
Mr.
architect?
Chairman,
Yes, Stu.
I have a question.
Yes, Stu?
Could the architect emphasize the 5th story of the complex?
Emphasizes meaning what? Sorry.
Where is it? Show it on the design. I can't really envision it yet.
Okay. Yeah, we don't have it shown in the presentation. It's something that we can prepare and show. But effectively the 4-story elevation that we showed would carry to the backside, and then we're just adding a lower floor. So the design feels universal, from the whole connected side. We can prepare the elevations that show each and every side, if that helps. I think that will be something that will help understand. We've always showed the 4-story because that's the view that we feel like the public is going to see. This is basically going to be where tenants are going to be parking and looking at that 5th story. So it's complementary to that public view, if that makes sense.
I'm sorry, sir. I don't understand what you said.
So let me share my screen again, and I can show you. Maybe it'll help a little bit. Can you see the elevation view that I have on one of my last few slides? So effectively the top floor will be that dark band floor that we're feeling like we're relieving the top a little bit so that it doesn't feel like a 4-story building on this side. as it turns the corner, basically all we're doing is dropping, you know, the middle bay of the building being the lighter tones. We're just adding another you know, bay to there and dropping it down, so that the rest in the backside of the building has that similar minimalist, you know, the expression is much the same to this side. It's just adding, you know, a floor down to the bottom.
What's going to be in that 5th floor?
So if I pull up the section, this may help.
Right.
So on the lowest floor,
Yeah,
basically,
that's what I'm talking about, the lower floor.
yep. So the lowest floor on the right side will be units that front the back edge of, you know, that surface parking, that vehicular entry, you know, the connection to the, so that's all fronted with units. So this is a stack of 5 units on this part of the section. On the back, it's basically tenant storage, it's back of house, it's amenity space, there's bicycle storage, there's a garden shop that will support a garden on the north part of the site. And then when you move to the left side, you have 4 stories of units that are, you can probably see in the perspective a little bit. So that's basically 4 stories of units on this side, if that makes sense.
So there are going to be residential apartments in the lowest floor that basically is below grade from the front of the building?
So the buried portion does not have any tenants and no units. It's basically back of house storage, you know, building support space. The units only exist on the right side of that section on the first floor.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Members of the board, any other questions for the design? Brian,
I don't have any questions.
Nathan,
No.
Chuck?
No, none.
Okay. The color of the buildings, are buildings 1 and 2, are they all going to be basically the same color? Or it looked like they were broken up a little bit on one of the screens that you just showed with a darker color on the end, but it was unclear to me.
Yeah, so the ends of the buildings have the dark accent tone. That's basically the vertical siding that you saw on the top portion of the building. That is the expression that happens on the ends of these buildings. So it carries over in that simple turn gable form as the architecture. I think you can see it in one of the perspectives. See if I can share my screen and point it out to you. So this is the view from building 1, but building 2 is in the back, and you can see the end of building 2 is that turn gable, and that's that dark vertical siding that occurs on the top floor as well.
Okay. And with respect to the townhouses, is each townhouse going to be a separate color, or are they all going to be identical?
So this design would basically carry consistently throughout, where you have the rhythmic pattern of let's call it the white house and the dark house, and that rhythmic pattern will be the rhythm of the street that will basically be the architecture that makes up that street. So it's a replication of the same building, except for we're addressing grading of the site, where, you know, these buildings are going to step based on the grading that Phil has mentioned about, you know, how the project steps from the top plateau, you know, over. So that's the only thing, but the color and the design will be a rhythmic pattern of what's shown of the design of the townhouse.
If you could go back to the screen that you were showing just before this one, and what we were looking at, how many buildings is that? Is that, say, building 5? Or is there building 5 and building 6 in there as well?
So this is, let's see if I can, there we go. So basically, this is just representative of one. So there's,
Okay.
you can see the garage bay with the
Mhm.
you know, the building bay, call it your first and second floor. These are 2-story townhouses, 2 bedrooms. So each of those are a single unit. So this is representative of 6, which is just one building.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, as we have done in past meetings, where we're breaking up the presentation into to categories, we've given the public an opportunity to ask questions on the particular presentation that's being made, rather than waiting until the very end when we get towards the end of the hearing. So why don't we do
Excuse me.
that?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, just to finish the design, I'm sorry, it took me a minute to unmute. But when I was talking to Peter Machak, I'm Jeff Smetana from the United Group.
Thank you for identifying yourself, because I didn't know who you were.
Yeah, it took me a minute. I got frustrated. I couldn't get unmuted. I was talking to Peter Machak earlier, and as we were preparing for how best to present for the board this evening, we talked about that maybe walking through what the project really presents, a lot of the items and the programming that drove the design, so people can understand why the project is designed the way that it does and how it's really going to function, and just walk you through some of the spaces a little bit. And I think it helps get a feel for the overall project. We spent quite a bit of time really with the select board early on in talking about the project, and you're the folks that are really voting on it, and we never really gave you that opportunity. So if there could be 5 minutes or so, I could just walk you through quickly how the programming and the lifestyle really works with the project.
Well, I have no objection to doing that now, and take all the time that you want or need. And then we will open it up to questions from the board. And if there are no further questions from the board, we'll open it up to the public to ask questions. And I see that meets with Mr. Tassoni's approval. Okay, Mr. Smetana, go ahead.
Let's see, I need to share my screen. Okay. Okay, can you see my screen?
I'm being invited to join the Sun program. Yes, I can see
Yes,
it.
you are. Okay. Well, our communities, our senior, our active adult, and independent living communities are really built around this SUN program. It's the Senior Umbrella Network. We developed this program nearly 20 years ago, before a lot of folks really understood that active adult and independent living were market niches. And it really was developed organically to really meet the needs of the residents that we saw in our communities. And it's a 7-pronged program, and it really provides the infrastructure for the lifestyle we're delivering to our residents. And so you can see here, there's health and wellness, it's finance and legal, education and lifelong learning, fun and recreation, convenience and economies, community and friendship, and safety and security. And we have all kinds of programming, as well as facilities and amenities that really support these lifestyle options for our residents. And I thought a good way to walk people through this was to take a design document that the Cube 3 interior design professionals created. This is something they presented in terms of really explaining how the design that they were proposing would work for our project. So again, this is our site plan. And even this is laid out in a way that's really thought out, where the parking is at the perimeter here. The townhomes are down here. Of course, Apple Ridge is down here. These more residential scale buildings are oriented toward the residential neighborhood. We have outdoor amenities like a dog park, a community garden up here for vegetable gardening, outdoor amenities behind the Clubhouse building. There are an outdoor kitchen, grilling stations, a pickleball court, bocce ball courts, a lot of facilities that people can really enjoy. So this Clubhouse is at the center of our community here to really serve as a draw to bring our residents together for amenities and for lifestyle. And the designers take, our program, and they take design materials and colors and try to capture that lifestyle that we're looking to create in terms of families and socialization, being pet friendly, promoting activities, promoting learning, outdoor activities like gardening, and some socialization. So all this kind of comes together as they look to create the design for what the project might be. And this programming centers a lot around this Clubhouse. This is the floor plan of the Clubhouse. This is about 11,600 square feet. In a normal market rate project, the Clubhouse would be half the size, maybe smaller. So we really build a lot into this space to serve a lot of functions for our residents. So residents would enter here through this main entrance, and Anthony showed you the facade here, or the elevation earlier. Our management offices are down here to greet folks as they come in. We have this large activity space that serves multiple purposes. It's a great room, a bistro, a prep kitchen here. Off of that is a living room for quieter activities. We have a media room, a game and craft room here, a fitness center with a yoga studio, a wellness center and salon, and then an indoor pool with a sauna, a little locker room and whatnot. So a lot of activities that really go on here that can be used in a lot of different ways. So to kind of walk you through the spaces a little bit, and here the designers were putting color palettes, the materials together. This is that first entrance here as you walk into the front of the building. You can see our management office. We have an office manager, a property manager, an assistant manager, an activities director. We have receptionists, meeting spaces. So a lot of people, a lot of professionals that really support the program. And here's a view inside the space now, looking out toward that main entrance. You can see it's very open, a lot of glass so people can see, very welcoming, a very nice finish to this. This is an early concept drawing, so all the colors aren't finished in here, but it gives you a nice feel for the space, this nice coffered ceiling to give it a kind of an upscale look. And as you move into this great room, you can see there's a fireplace with a large TV, a bar area, a piano, cocktail tables, dining tables in the bistro area, and then a kitchen that we're not cooking meals per se, but for caterers to come in. And so we can do events with meals, or a resident could have their own event here. They could have a baby shower or a birthday party or an anniversary party. So it's available for a lot of spaces. It might be a place where you go play cards with your friends during the day or attend a nice active event in the evening. So you can see here, we're using the volume of that space that Anthony was showing you. So you can see it's a great space. You could really have a lot of fun in this space, and have some large gatherings to bring people together, or sit around with a few friends in a smaller space. And off that room is this living room. Still a nice social space, but smaller scale, a pool table, some sitting areas here, our lending library here. Maybe book clubs can meet back in here. A another fireplace with a large screen TV, and then access here out to this patio back here. So again, open spaces, but a little smaller scale, a nice place to come, sit on some soft furniture, meet friends, read a book, shoot some pool, and enjoy the day. And this is that media room. These are very popular. We show films. Folks can come and get together and watch their favorite TV shows, watch a ball game. We also have speakers that come in that may speak on estate planning or travel. And some of our lifelong learning activities go on in this space. It serves a lot of really good uses. And an activity space, multi-purpose room where might be quiet time, like putting together puzzles or doing a craft, doing painting. So a lot of good use there for residents. And then it takes you through to this fitness center. This isn't necessarily the final equipment layout, but it shows you we have a lot of good, healthy equipment for cardiovascular, some little weight training, this yoga studio for yoga classes, Tai Chi, stretching, a lot of wellness classes, some of it to come over with your friends and have a workout, or we sponsor, we bring in professionals to come in and conduct classes. A lot of the technology now is great, so that a lot of it is technology driven. So you might get together with a couple of friends and put a class on one of the TVs or one of the pieces of equipment. So you can see it's a really large space. You can see the colors that our interior designers are taking throughout. Just a really uplifting but muted colors that kind of give it a little bit of a resort feel. You feel a little bit like you're on vacation. Not overpowering, but very comfortable for these spaces. Very warm, I think, in every space. There's also this salon space where there are some chairs for folks to come in and provide traditional salon services with hair coloring and hair cutting, to do nails, pedicures, really have some fun here. And then a wellness space where there could be massages, flu shots, health professionals come in and provide some support to our residents for checkups, eye exams, podiatrists might come in. So again, a lot of different uses for people and really promote that wellness lifestyle that we're really trying to provide. And then the swimming pool and the sauna. The pool is used quite a bit. We do a lot of aqua size type classes, not so much swimming of laps, although some folks will, but just get folks in the pool sometimes for physical therapy. Grandkids, certainly it's a big attraction, but it gets a lot of use for a lot of different purposes, and a nice space to go in the winter time to get some physical activity. And then in the garden buildings, in addition to the clubhouse, we also have community space there to try to get people out of their apartments. So here is the lobby, the ground floor lobby in one of the buildings where you might wait to be picked up by someone. But here's a banquette to where you could sit. There's a coffee bar, maybe have a cup of coffee with some friends, sit and wait for someone. Your mail comes here. Your package delivery is here. This is probably like an Amazon hub, a technology-driven system where you get a text message when your package arrives, and it gives you a number to pick it up. There's also dry cleaning pickup here. We'll have grocery delivery here and some refrigerated storage bins. So a lot of services that if it's cold and you don't want to go out to the grocery store, you can get some things delivered. And it just shows you, again, nice open spaces, some nice details to give it a nice classy look with the ceilings and the wall trim that keeps this very nice quality theme going. And some other amenities like Anthony was talking about. There's a pet spa, so you can see you can wash your pet, groom them. Groomers come in and offer it as a professional service. for residents, even a hair dryer for your dog or pet when they're done. Also this garden shop, so they can start their plants in the winter and early spring, and also during the season to bring their vegetables in and clean them, places to wash them. We'll do classes also with our residents on nutrition and what to grow and how to prepare foods. So this is really a lot of fun for our residents as well. And then each of the garden buildings also has its own second floor outdoor terrace. So there's a little community space with a bar area here where might be a little happy hour space or just to get together with some friends. So again, promoting that social activity and get people together to have some fun. And I thought I'd take a quick minute and walk you through our units as well, so you can see that these are nice, spacious units. It may not be everyone's idea of what senior living is all about. We really try to promote the active adult size. So this is about a 750, 760 square foot apartment. This one bedroom unit, you come here off the corridor, you can see it's just this very large kitchen with stainless appliances, granite counters, a nice pantry, a nice open living space. Each unit has a balcony, a large bathroom, large shower with glass doors, nice walk-in closet in the bedroom, 9-foot ceilings. So it's a very nice one bedroom unit. We have some larger one bedroom units where we could create them. So people that really need a lot of closet space. Here's a kind of an interesting unit, a little bit different floor plan, a little more open. So we have some variety of floor plans for residents. So if you want a little more living space, you like to entertain, this unit works well. Another large open unit, again, for some variety. And then this is a 2-bedroom unit. Again, you can see 2 large closets. This is the master suite. And this is the second bedroom, similar type of open kitchen area. And then a larger 2-bedroom for folks that need a little more space. You can see 2 walk-in closets here. And then we have, this is the corner unit. So you can see the glass wraps around here on this corner unit that provides people this nice big living space. And then here's a larger corner unit. So that comes all the way around, a very large master suite and nice living space. So you can see there are a lot of different types of units. A lot of our residents will be couples moving in 60s and 70s. Some folks will move in later. It might be singles. Some folks will age in place and live here 12 or 15 years. So there's a lot of variety for them as well. And we have the townhouse units, which as Anthony was showing, they're in banks of 6. So they have these first floors. This is a smaller scale, obviously, large open living space, nice master suite. And then as you go upstairs, there's a second bedroom where the guests or the grandkids or something can stay as well. So I think what the overall plan is really to provide our residents with as much variety in the lifestyle as possible. We've worked with this site as well as we can. The 4-story, 5-story is kind of confusing. We all understand that, but working with the topography, that really worked out how we could best do it. The site slopes down to the north. And the only way for us to really address that was to create this 4-story building on this side, get everyone at a level where pedestrian traffic is really quite convenient. And then the building serves a little bit as a retaining wall. So on the north side now, it's 5 stories. So that's why, as Phil was pointing out, the topo here makes this building almost as tall as this building when you look at where the roofs align, so that this roof line here is only about 6 feet taller than these townhomes over here. So these folks in Apple Ridge get a very familiar residential feel, something very appropriate as far as what's really in their background, in their backyard. We've done a lot of planning in terms of muting lighting, mitigating other impacts, and at the same time trying to create a lifestyle that really works well for our residents. I think, as folks know, 25% of the units are affordable, 45 units in total, 36 at 80% of AMI, 5 at 60%, and 4 at 40%. These townhouses to the one-bedroom apartments also give us a great variety of lifestyle options. So we think we're serving a huge number of constituents in the Ashland community. We know that typically 70% of our residents will come from within a 5-mile radius of our property. So the idea is that 70% of our residents already live in Ashland and will find this as the next place. So for them to sell their single family home, perhaps to a young family, and have an option where they can move in with a lot of their other friends, their adult children can know that they're going to be looked after, and it gives them a lifestyle option where they can live here for quite a long time. So we really look forward to offering this as an option for active adults in Ashland, and we'll appreciate the support that we've gotten from everyone in the community.
Thank you. Members of the board, any questions for Mr. Smetana?
How old do I have to be to get one of these units?
62.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody? Nathan, Stu, Chuck?
I'm all set.
I have a question with respect to buildings 1 and 2, the 4/5 story apartment buildings. I assume there's a trash room on the bottom floor.
That's correct. There's a trash chute in this corner and in this corner. And down on the bottom floor, there's a compactor. And the plan is to, the compactors are rolled out when the trash pickup folks give a call. The staff rolls out the compactor, they dump them into their truck and exit out this way. And for the townhouses, there's a dumpster here for those residents.
What about recycling?
Yes, we have recycling in each of these rooms, trash rooms here. There's also recycling. Our maintenance staff, there are toters in there where the residents put their recycling. Our staff brings that down, stores that in the storeroom, and then that in the trash room, and that also is picked up by the waste service.
Okay, and it's private trash pickup?
It's yes, we'll be contracting with one of the services.
Sure. And any provisions for composting?
We haven't yet. We've talked about that, but we have not incorporated that yet. I think things like that often come from residents that want to start programs to do things like that. So I think if there's interest among our resident base, I think we can look at that. There are some things with that not everyone's in favor of that, but those are the kinds of things we can certainly look at with our residents.
Okay, very good. Well, if there are no other questions, perhaps we could go back to the main screen where we can see everybody's faces.
Let's see, I have to.
There we go. No other questions from members of the board? Okay, as we've done previously, where we have broken up the presentation, we have stopped and allowed members of the public to ask questions on the subject of the presentation that we've just heard. So we've had actually 3 presentations, Mr. Cordero, Mr. DeFelice, and then Mr. Smetana. So I will open it up to the public to ask questions. Please direct a question to me, and I will in turn direct it to the appropriate person to respond, if that's okay. And raise your hand, and Emma will make note of any members of the public that wish to speak, and we'll let you in accordingly. Emma, I see one hand raised.
Yes, I've invited Mark to unmute. Mark, if you'd like to.
Hey, thank you. Thank you. Good evening. I was following this presentation very closely and was thinking to myself, it seems like a rail transit use table question for me to ask. So would that be okay, Mr. Chairman?
Well, Mark, we've sort of asked you to focus on what Mr. Cordero talked about this evening, which was the lighting.
I didn't have anything on that.
And what Mr. DeFelice talked about, the design of the buildings.
A little bit.
Mr. Smetana talked about more of the interior of the buildings.
And that's what it's going to be.
So that's really what we're limiting public contact to now.
Okay.
If you have a question about what's appropriate to be built in the rail transit district,
yes,
that's going to be a question for another meeting, and not today, because that's one of the waivers that the applicant is asking the board to vote on. And before everything is closed out and we take a vote, there's going to be discussion about things like that. And that's when public comment on that would be most appropriate. Okay, so I don't want to cut you off, but I also don't want to go down a.
You guided me through what I can ask. Okay, then is this going to be like a senior housing development?
Mr. Smetana, do you want to answer that?
It is, it's an age restricted, 62 and older.
Okay. Now, Mr. Chairman, I need to ask this as that, but it is under the table. And I know you don't want me to ask it, but it has, okay, this apartment and the series apartments, are they rail transit tabled apartments too?
I am not sure, Mark. They were built and did not come before the ZBA. They obviously are built in the rail transit district and were built appropriately, or they wouldn't have been allowed to.
Oh, okay. I'm answering my own question by looking at the rail transit board. It says age restricted with in parentheses C, so it's yes for that. So it can be, so it is zoned to be built there, and it's okay from there. That answers that question. Now, to whoever you can direct me to, the 2-3 bedrooms design of it. Can I ask that question?
What is your question about the 2 or 3 bedroom units?
Okay. This is in the Ashland Code. I'm going to read from that one. It's going to coexist with this. It says the maximum of 15% of the units is not multifamily. Takes care of that question. Okay. In dimensional requirements, it has as over 1,000 square feet for the bedrooms. And what they are asking for is over 1,000, but it says in the dimensional zoning requirements for 600 square feet per unit with maximum of 2 bedrooms.
Mark, I'm gonna stop you there because you're going down a path on an issue that the board will be discussing at a subsequent meeting, but as part of the comprehensive permit application, the applicant has asked the board to waive a number of zoning requirements. And at some later point, we will take up that issue and discuss each and every waiver request and whether we wish to allow the waiver request or whether we wish to deny the waiver request. So it's premature
Okay.
to go through the zoning law
Okay.
and ask about dimensional requirements and things of that nature because we haven't reached that point of
Okay.
discussion
I'm
yet.
jumping ahead too soon to.
You're always ahead of us, Mark, so not to worry.
Okay, thank you. I may not be able to ask this question too, but is the floor of the ground floor to pitch a roof? Can I ask a question about the height?
Certainly, Mr. DeFelice, perhaps you would be the best one to address the question of height.
Sure. Which building specifically you're asking?
Well, you got it in two different ways of setting pitches on roofs. One with a straight point and another one that's half to the top of the fourth floor, going in the middle. So you got it mixed up as maximum height to half the maximum. And your design, the black and white pictures that you show in the buildings one going across as it was printed, but not in the full scale colored versions, like on the blueprint way of doing things. So you got some buildings with a point like this, and some like this coming across. Buildings 4, 5, 6, and 7 would be the asking points about the roof pitches there.
You understand the question, Mr. DeFelice?
Is the question the slope and the pitch of the roof? Is that the question?
It's be at tip of pitch to tip of the tip when it's slanted like this to one that's like this next to it. Your pictures where you got the design was 4, 5, 6, and 7 together. This is without the people and the trees and all that.
Yeah, you're talking about the difference in height between basically our garage location, which is lower, in our second floor, which is our double height for the unit. You're talking about that difference?
And they're all 4 stories high. And the 5th story is a storage, right?
So buildings 4, 5, 6 those are the townhouse buildings. Building 1 and 2 are the 4, 5 story split.
Okay, and you got all different heights of roofs next to each other. I'm asking each height. But if I can remember right through the zoning code, that the 45 foot is the highest for what you're gonna be putting for residential senior residential is pitching the roof. Yes.
I'm going to ask you to not keep referring to the zoning code as there are waivers asked on a number of different items.
I'm jumping ahead again.
You are.
Oh, shoot. Okay.
You'll have an opportunity to ask those questions at a subsequent meeting.
Okay. I appreciate you guiding me, and Mr. DeFelice, that will probably come up with a question at that time. Because as Mr. Chairman knows, I'm a zoning freak, going through everything and numbers and heights and all that goes with it hand in hand with the Ashland Code and zoning. That is worth the time to talk. But Mr. Chairman, thank you.
You're welcome, Mark. Thank you for participating as always.
Yep, and I'll keep it quiet for now.
Okay. 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 If there are no other questions for Mr. DeFelice or Mr. Smetana, it is 8:25. So we do have some time before we would normally end the meeting. So Nathan, Brian, Stu, Chuck, do we want to hear a presentation from the traffic engineer to at least get a feel for it? And we'll have a further discussion next meeting where we will have the opportunity to have our peer review report in hand, but this may give us a feel for the issues. Attorney Buckley, what do you think?
I do think that to set the stage, to provide the background for you to review the traffic report, a brief presentation would be worthwhile.
Okay. Nathan, Brian, Chuck, Stu, that okay with you folks?
Yes.
Yeah, we're
And let's do it. And I will turn it over to you, Attorney Buckley, to introduce your traffic engineer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Dan. How are you? It's been a while. If you would kindly just provide an overview for the board, Dan, that would be great. Dan is with MDM Traffic Engineering, and I use them oftentimes myself, but I'll turn it over to Dan, and Dan, you can take the board through what the anticipated traffic impacts are, focusing on the unique nature of this use.
Great, thank you, Attorney Buckley. For the record, my name is Daniel Mills. I'm a principal traffic engineer with MDM Transportation Consultants. Our office is located in Marlborough. Thank you again, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So we conducted an initial traffic assessment for the development, really in response to a comment that we received through the project team relative to providing level of service analysis for the site driveway, the intersection of the site drive at Memorial Drive. So if I may share my screen, I can bring up that report real quickly for you. Are you seeing my screen?
Yes.
Right. Again, so we focus on three elements really. One was the roadway itself and what the geometry is, what the existing traffic volumes are on the roadway. The second element is how much additional traffic this development with the number of units and the use will generate on the roadway. And three, to identify the incremental traffic and if there are impacts to the operation at the intersection. As we know, this is the site adjacent to the other residential development. Memorial Drive travels from West Union Street up to the commuter rail station. The site has a single access driveway, again with its intersection at Memorial Drive, and that's what our analysis focused in on. Traffic volumes were conducted conveniently in 2019 prior to the pandemic. So we have a baseline that is not affected by really the travel restrictions that have been placed on really the world. But fortunately, again, we have volumes that were taken after the Sears building was occupied, but before the pandemic. So we have a great snapshot of that. Right now is about 3,000, or prior to the pandemic, it was about 3,000 vehicles per day on Memorial Drive itself. We looked at the use being a senior housing development, the number of units at 180, and we relied on our industry standard manual called Trip Generation Manual, published by the Institute of Transportation Engineers for, in this case, the use of senior adult housing with an age restriction on it. Doesn't mean that people are retired. It just means that the population is older. They may not work. They may work full time. They may work part time. They may have a house that they go to off season. But the land use of senior adult housing provides us with a gauge to how much the particular use will generate for traffic. In the case of 180 units, we'd be looking at about, we hone in on the morning peak hour, or the commuter time, where you would see the most traffic on Memorial Drive, and then also the evening commuter peak hour. And that's what I'm showing this table 3 here relative to the morning peak hour. We see approximately 36 vehicle trips total, and that would be about 13 vehicles entering the site and about 23 vehicles exiting the site. Given that it's morning, the people that are going out either to employment or to run an errand would be leaving their development. Conversely, in the evening, we would see more folks coming back from their errand or their employment. In this case, we estimate about 25 vehicles would be entering and 20 would be exiting for about 45 vehicles in total. So as you can see, we have about 36 to 45 vehicles trips estimated for the proposed residential development. Given that we know what the level of the trips are, we assign them to the roadway network. In this case, we're looking at the Memorial Drive intersection with the site driveway. To the north, we have the MBTA station. Based on our observation at the Cirrus building, there are folks that do drive. It's about a third of a mile away, maybe a little bit more, maybe closer to a half a mile away. So there are folks that still going to want to drive to the commuter rail station, even though it's fairly close. But the majority of folks will obviously take a right turn out of the site driveway and head towards Route 135 in the morning. And then in the evening, the majority of folks will return from 135 and turn left into the site. So knowing that information, we overlay those turning movements onto our volume that we collected in 2019. And we can run what we call level service analysis, intersection capacity analysis, where we identify a grade of the operation of the driveway. The design calls for single lane exit and the single lane along Memorial Drive. Based on our analysis and our methodology from the Highway Capacity Manual, the intersection in the morning is expected to operate level service A, and in the evening, again, level service B for the site driveway itself and level service A for Memorial Drive. And those grades range from sort of like a report card in school. Level service A is really good, and level service F, which would be poor operation. In this case, because of the lower volume on Memorial Drive, combined with the lower land use generating traffic of the senior residential development, we estimate a level service A for the operation of the site driveway. So that's a quick overview of the report. Again, it was it was to address a comment that we received through the project team relative to providing level service analysis for the site. And again, we understand that there will be this report will be peer reviewed, and we look forward to seeing that and working with that consultant if the board allows to provide answers that they or you may have.
Mr. Chairman, may I make a comment on that?
Yes, Attorney Buckley, please.
I think in the backdrop, and this is just information, it's one of the amenities that we offer to the residents. There'll be an on-demand shuttle service for the residents to use. So it's somewhat similar to what you'd see at a major hotel, where if someone has a doctor's appointment or they want to go downtown or they want to do something, there'll be an on-site capability. So Dan's numbers may even be higher than what is actually going to occur on the ground there because of that shuttle service. So
okay,
just think that's background information to interpret the data provided.
If I can just augment that, we didn't take credit because it is located close to the commuter rail station. We did not take credit for folks that would be bicycling or walking to that location. We just use straight what the national models suggest for a facility like this away from transit station.
And precisely because of that, because of the grade changes, we felt that that's an amenity. The walking, it's a steep grade, and so there'll be an on-site service so that if someone, as I said, desires to go to the train station or downtown or other locations, they'll be able to make arrangements on site for that.
Very good. Okay. Board members, any questions for Mr. Mills at this point in time? I know it was just a brief overview of his report, and we haven't had the benefit of our peer review analysis to focus on any particular issues, but any questions? Brian, Nathan, Stu, Chuck?
More of a statement on my end, but I guess Attorney Buckley sort of explained it a little bit, but with the size of the grade changes and the fact that there's no sidewalks on leaving the property, I can't see anyone walking or bicycling off of this property. It would seem almost impossible to walk down that grade with cars and no sidewalk. So I don't know if the traffic study anticipates anybody walking or bicycling, but I wouldn't think that it would actually happen.
I agree with you, Brian. I think that's one of the major sort of conflicts, is that Smetana described, a very active senior adult community with a lot of exercising. And I think the photo on the welcoming to the presentation was of a senior couple coming back from a walk. And there is absolutely no way, unless people are just going to walk around the internal area between the buildings, that people are going to walk up and down that driveway. It is a concern, I think, but I understand the engineering issues. Mr. Cordero explained them very clearly about what the problems were, and that is one of the things we are going to have to ultimately decide. Mr. Mills, I do have a question, and whether this, I'm not sure whether this was in the purview of your study, if not, but obviously at the train station there is a very large parking lot, and in the morning cars come off of 135 and in Memorial Drive to park, so to get on the commuter rail, and the reverse in the evening. And does the flow of traffic in that peak hour, both morning and afternoon, does that play any role in what you analyzed and the figures that you derived?
Yeah, so the traffic volumes that we collected captured the flows in and out of the train station.
Okay, and I'm guessing that the conclusion is that the amount of traffic that would flow into or out of the Arbella development is relatively insignificant compared to the general traffic on Memorial and where it meets 135 at the traffic light there?
We did not conduct a specific analysis of the Route 135 intersection, but this is a fairly moderate amount of traffic that would be added to the roadway system because of the use, because of the nature of being a senior, and not necessarily going to work every day or commuting every day. Having the ability to run errands off peak, not during commuter peak hours.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Attorney Buckley, I don't know whether you're the one to ask, I should address this question to, or Mr. Smetana, but the on-site van, is that something that's proposed to be there, every day, 9 to 5 or 8 to 5, whatever normal hours are, and people sign up for it? Or is it just simply an on-call where something is provided when a resident calls to make a reservation for it?
I believe it's going to be on site, but I'll defer to Jeff.
Yeah, it's our van and it's our driver or drivers, and we provide a series of uses. So there'll be planned activities. They might take a trip to the Natick Mall. They may go downtown for something going on there on a Saturday afternoon. So it's our van and it's our schedule and our services. And as Bob was pointing out earlier, you know, to appointments and things like that as well. So it really frees up our residents, especially in bad weather, to get out and about and do the things that they need to do.
Okay, fine, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Mills at this time? Okay, thank you, Mr. Mills. Attorney Buckley, it makes sense to me to stop at this point in the process and resume at our next hearing, which will be a next meeting, which will be on May 10th. And again, we have apparently the report of our peer reviewer from CGC, and we will have the report from the peer reviewer on the transportation. So we certainly ought to be able to move forward expeditiously with both of those items. It strikes me that we're approaching perhaps the end of what we need to hear before we start talking about some of the issues as a board. And when I say near, within the next 2 or 3 meetings, certainly. I know at the conclusion of our last meeting, Attorney Mead requested updated waiver request, because the last one I believe that we have was dated on August 11th of 2020, and I haven't seen an updated waiver request. But do you think it would be possible to have one in advance of our meeting next week so we can start to focus on that as well?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. We have updated hours. I'm sorry, speaking fast because my computer's telling me a low battery, but we have that. The peer review consultant has also suggested reviewed that list, so we will coordinate or collate those two and make sure that we get that to the board for their consideration as soon as possible.
Thank you. Okay, that having been said, Chair will entertain a motion to.
Mr. Chair, could
Yes,
I just a point of order?
Sure.
So at the next meeting, we'll be prepared to discuss hopefully the resolution of the peer review consultant comments. Hopefully you'll have your peer review of the traffic, and you'll have a list of the waivers. And if there are any other questions that come up in the interim, if you would through the plan through Peter or whatever, we'll be glad to be prepared to address those. So if you just get them to my attention or Phil's attention, we'll act on them properly.
Very good. Glad to do that. Well, if there's nothing else further for this evening with respect to this hearing, would someone like to make a motion to continue the hearing to May 10th at 7 p.m.?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I, John Trefethen, vote in favor.
Aye, Brian Forrestall, vote in favor.
I, Chuck Green, vote in favor.
I, Nathan Band, vote in favor.
I, Stuart Siegel, vote in favor.
Very good. Then the meeting is continued until May 10th, or the hearing, I should say. We have some further business to discuss this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for your courtesy, and please stay healthy.
You as well, Attorney Buckley.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adam, we didn't use your services much tonight.
You didn't, but it's been a long time, so it was nice to see some familiar faces, and maybe I'll see you again in a month or so.
Look forward to it as always. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on. Next item on the agenda would be minutes from our April 26th meeting. Emma got these out, the draft midday today. Have people had an opportunity to review them and discuss or vote upon them, or would you like more time to do that and we could take it up at our next meeting?
I move we table the minutes to the next meeting.
That sounds good to me. Is there a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, John Trefethan, vote in favor.
Aye, Brian Forrestall, vote in favor.
Aye, Nathan Band, vote in favor.
Hi, Stuart Siegel, vote in favor.
Okay. Emma, any administrative matters to talk about?
Apologies on sending the minutes late. I will make sure the next ones go out when I say they will go out. At our next meeting on May 10th, besides the continued Zero Memorial Drive, we will have a public hearing for both a special permit and variance for one project at Zero Independence. So this is the meeting of zero addresses. This is a town project installing a water booster pump on that site. I have put the materials online. I will send out a link to the board. And if you have any questions in advance of the meeting, please let me know.
As far as going forward, both this continued hearing and the new hearing is scheduled for 7 o'clock.
Correct.
We will take up the continued hearing first, I am assuming, because there will be expert consultants involved in that, or is it anticipated that we should take up the other one first?
I think that would be up to your discretion.
Very politically correct answer.
Pressure on you.
Well, we can think about that. How's that?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Talk off.
Anything else administratively we need to consider?
No.
Okay. Just so everyone knows, I did attend the seminar on Chapter 40B that was offered via the internet by a municipal planning agency, I guess they were, last week. And I won't say whether I learned anything or not, but it was well worth taking the time to participate in it. And that's that. If there's nothing else, is there a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
And is there a second?
I'll
Okay.
second.
Aye, John Trefethan, vote in favor.
Aye, Brian Forrestall, vote in favor.
Aye, Chuck Green, vote in favor.
Stu, are you voting?
Hi, Stu Siegel, vote in favor also.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Thank you all, everybody. Brian, you're not living in a van down by the river, are you?
I'm on vacation. I'm